You ever stop to think about the sheer amount of work that goes into putting on just one concert? From the outside, it can look like, I don't know, a few hours of music, but trust me, there's a whole universe of effort behind it.
Absolutely. And that's precisely what we're plunging into today. Think of this as your backstage pass to understanding the making of a specific musical moment. Ryoma Maeda and Romantic Suiciders' first album release, One Man Live show.
A one-man live, yeah. That one band, the whole night, which all went down on December 23rd, 2015, at Shinjuku Motion.
Exactly. And we've got some incredible first-hand accounts for this deep dive excerpts from Ryoma Maeda's own blog, chronicling the wild ride leading up to the show.
It's a real, no-holds-barred look at the dedication it takes, especially in the DIY music world.
Totally. And through these blog entries, our goal is really to uncover the immense effort, the inventive problem solving, and just the sheer tenacity required to pull off this event against what felt like, well, a constant wave of obstacles.
Okay, let's get into it then. Where does this whole ambitious journey begin?
So it starts even before their album, Synthesizer Garage Punk Band, was officially out. Ryoma Maeda was already laser-focused on one critical question. How do we actually get people to hear this music?
Which is, the fundamental challenge for any artist, right?
Yeah.
But it gets amplified when you're self-releasing on your own label, Mills Records.
Oh, absolutely. While there's this romantic idea of total creative control in the DIY approach, the practical reality is you're juggling every single role. Booking agent, PR manager, roadie. The to-do list is just endless.
Right. And their initial strategy for a release party was pretty ambitious. Aim high for maximum impact.
Yeah, the ideal is to book a bigger, established band, draw a crowd, get their music heard by more people. Seems like a smart move on paper.
Until they hit a surprisingly basic hurdle. They couldn't find their contact information. At all.
It sounds almost like a sitcom plot point, doesn't it? This fundamental barrier to their grand plan. Just how do we even call them?
So in true 21st century style, they took a leap of faith. Sent a Facebook message to the band's official page.
And incredibly, it worked. They actually got a reply with the contact details for the booking agency.
Wow, so initial excitement levels must have been, sky high, right? For a minute, anyway.
Briefly, perhaps,
Yeah.
because then the financial realities crashed down hard.
Yeah, the cost of booking a band with that kind of profile was just way beyond what they could manage.
And you have to remember, this is an unsigned band we're talking about, funding everything out of their own pockets. The blog posts really underscore this precarious financial tightrope they were walking.
Even a completely sold-out show at the venue they were looking at could have put them in the red, which is just, yeah.
This situation really brings into focus a key insight, I think, for anyone navigating the independent music scene. Artistic ambition often runs headfirst into financial constraints. It forces artists to make these really difficult decisions and find resourceful solutions.
So what do? Faced with that number?
Well, their response was bold, though maybe admittedly awkward. They tried to negotiate a lower fee.
Oh, wow. You can almost picture them agonizing over crafting that message.
Yeah.
Laying bare their financial situation, hoping passion would win out.
You can practically feel the nervous energy in Ryoma's writing as he describes trying to navigate that conversation, really hoping to sway the booking company with just sheer enthusiasm.
And the result?
Silence. 5 long days of it, which ultimately delivered a polite but, pretty definitive rejection.
Ouch. So the vision of a 2-band release party just dissolved.
Yep. But here's where the story takes a really unexpected turn. What was their next move?
This is the crucial pivot point, isn't it?
It really is. Instead of looking for a different, maybe less well-known support act, they made what might seem like a totally counterintuitive leap. They decided to perform a one-man live show.
Just them, the whole night.
Exactly. For those unfamiliar, that's a full concert featuring just their band, no opening act. And for a band relatively early in their career with only one album out, that's a significant gamble.
It does seem a bit illogical on the surface, doesn't it? Why make it harder?
But Ryoma references a quote from the manga and anime Kaiji about how sometimes you need to embrace unconventional strategies to break through obstacles. It's that spirit of pushing beyond what seems like the obvious safe path.
And that unconventional spirit, it seems, extended to the show's very title, too. Haretsu Ni Mukatte.
Which translates to towards explosion.
Yeah. And this wasn't just a catchy phrase. It was a direct homage to ex-Japan's iconic album, Blue Blood. A huge influence for them, clearly.
And the explosion wasn't just about, loud music, it carried this dual meaning for them, representing the idea of breaking through the noise, making a significant impact.
Exploding onto the scene, basically, in a positive, memorable way.
Okay, so they had the venue booked, the date set, and this really powerful title that resonated with their ambitions, but then they faced another very practical challenge.
Right, filling the actual time. They realized that even playing their entire first album wouldn't cut it for a full-length concert. It'd be maybe, 30 minutes of music? Yeah, you can't really call that a headlining show. So the brainstorming sessions began. How do we stretch this?
They considered various things like longer instrumental sections, maybe jamming more, even toying with the idea of incorporating completely different musical styles for parts of the show.
Thankfully, they steered clear of a sudden detour into, prog rock epics or something.
Yeah. The breakthrough moment came when Ryoma recalled ex-Japan's Bakudan Sunzen GHG VHS. Apparently, it featured dedicated solo segments from each band member.
Okay. So that sparked the idea to structure their own one-man live into 3 distinct acts, each featuring solo spots for the members.
Exactly. And that's how the 3 segments were conceived. Bakuin no Yoru, Night of Explosions, Garage no Heya, Garage Room, and the namesake, Haretsu Ni Mukatte.
It was a pretty clever structural choice, really. Allowed them to showcase individual talents and stretch their existing material into a full concert experience without it feeling, padded.
Definitely. So with the show's framework in place, it was time to move into the rehearsal studio. And if the planning stages seemed intense,
Oh boy.
the rehearsals escalated into a whole new level of rock and roll pandemonium.
Oh man, the rehearsal stories from the blog are just wild. The first sign of trouble, Haji Metal, the crazy synthesizer, forgot his guitar, that shoulder-mounted keyboard thing.
And Ryoma's blog makes it clear this wasn't just any instrument, it was like a core symbol of the band's identity.
Cue the dramatic reaction, I'm guessing.
You bet. And the chaos just snowballed from there. Kim, the drummer, apparently had some serious issues with the consistency of the click tracks they were using.
Oh.
And decided to express his frustration by throwing a cymbal in Ryoma's direction.
Whoa. Okay, that gives you a sense of the pressure cooker environment they were in.
For sure. You can only imagine the atmosphere in that room. But the drama didn't end there. Aji Metal then apparently unleashed on their poor sound engineer, Steve Havis.
What happened?
He started demanding a sound reminiscent of the neoclassical shredder Yngwie Malmsteen.
Wait, Haji Metal. Isn't he usually into, Merzbow and Corrupted? Really experimental, noisy stuff?
Exactly. The irony is definitely not lost. For listeners unfamiliar, Merzbow and Corrupted are known for very abrasive and often extreme soundscapes. Nothing like Yngwie.
It's a fantastic illustration of clashing musical sensibilities under pressure. So what did the engineer say?
Well, Steve Havis, understandably taken aback, asked what specific kind of sound they were actually aiming for. Good question, right?
Yeah, seems reasonable.
This prompted Ryoma to grab the forgotten keytar and hurl it across the room.
Oh my god, he threw the symbolic guitar.
He did. And then Kim, the drummer, already on edge from the click track issues and the cymbal pause, directed his anger at Ryoma for his treatment of their, symbolic instrument.
It sounds less like a polished rehearsal and more like an explosive, if slightly violent burst of pure punk rock energy.
Ryoma himself describes it as rock and roll, punk rock, and garage punk, despite all the internal friction, this kind of intense, almost volatile energy, while undoubtedly stressful. It can sometimes be a characteristic of highly creative and passionate bands pushing their boundaries, especially before a big event. It's a messy but maybe necessary part of the process.
Maybe. The blog post includes a humorous intertarity, and he admits partially fictionalized account of them making up over seafood at Isamaru Suzendan after this madness.
Right, painting that classic picture of a band that can have these intense blow-ups that ultimately finds its way back together. Bonded by chaos, maybe?
Okay, let's jump ahead. We're getting close to the final days before the December 23rd show. Despite all this effort, all the planning, all the drama.
A concerning trend emerged. Pre-ticket sales were significantly lower than hoped. Panic started to set in.
But Ryoma, ever the resilient frontman, channeled that kaiji spirit once more, didn't he? Recalling the idea of facing potential defeat with pride, even if that defeat hasn't actually happened yet.
Exactly. That mindset fueled a last-ditch promotional blitz.
And by blitz, we mean printing a staggering 3,000 additional flyers for distribution. Just, wow, talk about commitment.
But they didn't stop there. They decided to offer a special incentive, a carrot, for anyone who attended the show.
Right. They announced a limited edition bonus CDR,
Yep.
like a Christmas present for everyone who came.
And the track list was incredibly generous. Their full cover of Tokyo's Love You Only.
Which is kind of amazing in itself.
Totally. Plus, a sampler of their album, Haja Metal's track Giri Gal. They even included a YouTube link in the blog post and a preview of Haja Metal's Super Solo 2.
This kind of offering really highlights a core insight in the DIY scene, doesn't it? Often you have to go above and beyond just to entice an audience.
Yeah.
That collision of passion and harsh financial reality.
It forces tough choices and creative solutions. This CDR was a fantastic way to encourage attendance and give fans something truly unique.
And the blog post even teased a secret plan being developed right up to the wire, adding another layer of intrigue. What could it be?
We'll get to that. The final blog entry, posted the day before the live show, had this tone of absolute commitment, like no turning back now, we're doing this.
It's also worth noting, just as a side point, that around this time, Ryoma Maeda and Romantic Suiciders also released a new song through an original RPG video game they made.
Yeah. Talk about a multifaceted approach to getting their music out there, not just flyers and shows.
Okay, so December 23rd, 2015 finally dawns. Shinjuku Motion becomes the stage for all this accumulated effort and chaos. Ryoma admits to some serious pre-show nerves.
Fueled by a high-end energy drink, apparently. You can only imagine the tension backstage after everything they've been through.
The opening background music set the atmosphere perfectly, though. The live version of X Japan's epic Art of Life.
Such a clear statement of their influences and a really powerful way to build anticipation in the room.
Then the first set, Bakuin no Yoru, exploded into life with another X Japan track, World Anthem, blasting as the intro sound effect. What a way to kick things off.
Absolutely. The set list for this first part was just a high-energy showcase of their sound, Fancy Rider, Underground Residence, which featured film projections, and an extended Haji Metal solo. Then that unexpected cover of Tokyo's Love You Only. Their anthemic We Are Romantic Suiciders, Fantastic Suicide. Their take on Rollover Beethoven, and finally, Against. It sounds like an incredibly dynamic and intense performance.
The blog description really emphasizes their explosive stage presence. It culminates in all three members collapsing dramatically on stage as the melancholic strains of X Japan's Endless Rain played in the background.
Wow. A truly theatrical end to the first act.
After a brief intermission, the second set, Garage no Heya, began. Once again, using a slightly sped-up version of X Japan's World Anthem as the intro.
And then came something completely unexpected, even after the Tokyo cover.
Karaoke.
Right in the middle of their own headlining show.
Ryoma kicked it off with Aikichi Azawa's I Love You, Okay, even if he hilariously forgot some of the lyrics, according to the blog.
Then it was Haji Metal tackling TM Network's Get Wild, Kim singing Kenji Sawada's classic Toki no Sugi Yukumama ni.
And finally, all three of them belting out Be a Wise Dream. The blog post mentions a surprisingly emotional response from the audience to this whole segment.
You know, it was probably a brilliant and unconventional way to connect with the crowd on a more personal level. It showed different facets of their personalities and musical tastes beyond their own songs.
And the slightly sped up Endless Rain, playing them off again, just added this touch of surreal humor to the whole thing.
Definitely memorable. So the anticipation for the final set, the namesake Haretsu Ni Mukatte, was building. The big finale.
And just before it started, Ryoma made a comment to Haji Metal that now seems almost like heavy foreshadowing. If the computer doesn't crash, today will be a success. Famous last words, perhaps.
Oh no, indeed. The final act launched with a cover of the Ventures classic Pipeline, then Runaway Girls' Stay Free, I'm Not Free, which Ryoma noted had a really challenging synth melody.
Right.
Then a creative mashup of John Lennon's Happy Gamanins, War is Over, and Zoo's version of Choo Choo Train, cleverly titled Choo Mary.
Okay, that sounds wild.
And then the song Pistols. All of this leading up to what was meant to be the culmination of their efforts, the song they considered the goal of this long journey, Are You Experienced in My Life?
The absolute peak of the entire night, this was it.
And then disaster struck. In a way no one could have predicted, right at the climax.
What happened? The computer.
Yep. During the noise section of that final song, with Haji Metal actually out in the audience playing his guitar, and Ryoma on the floor creating this sonic maelstrom, the sound just abruptly cut out, silence. The computer had crashed.
Oh, God. That really underscores the precarious nature of relying on technology in a live performance, doesn't it?
Totally. Despite the initial confusion, Ryoma tried to remain calm, hoping maybe it was just a temporary glitch, something would kick back in. But then the dreaded blue screen of death appeared on the laptop, and they realized the audio interface, basically the crucial link between their instruments, the computer effects, and the main sound system for the audience, had become disconnected or failed.
A true technical nightmare unfolding live on stage during the final song. You couldn't write it.
The incredibly difficult decision had to be made. End the show prematurely. Right there.
The disappointment backstage must have been just immense. To come so close to this triumphant finish and have it all derailed by a technical malfunction like that?
Gutting. Absolutely gutting. They attempted an encore, desperately hoping maybe they could reboot, salvage the situation somehow.
But the technical issues persisted.
Yeah, no luck. Ultimately, with heavy hearts, they had to call it a night, offering their sincere apologies to the clearly disappointed audience.
And as if to add a final, almost cinematic touch of cruel irony.
As they carried their heavy equipment out of the venue, defeated, it began to rain.
Seriously, a real-life echo of endless rain.
Exactly. Ryoma described feeling completely burst, just utterly drained and defeated by it all.
Wow. So as we unpack this incredible, almost unbelievable story of one chaotic concert, what are the key takeaways for you?
Well, we see the staggering amount of dedication required for even a single independent show. The constant need for inventive solutions to just completely unexpected problems.
That collision of ambitious artistic vision with the gritty realities of the DIY music scene, for sure.
Definitely. And of course, the both humorous and ultimately deeply frustrating climax. That technical failure right at the peak.
Absolutely. And despite that meltdown at the very end, their resilience and determination throughout the whole process are truly admirable. You know, Ryoma's declaration later of wanting to revenge the technical difficulties speaks volumes about their commitment. They weren't giving up.
No way, it's pure grit.
So the final thought may be for you listening to consider. Despite all the unexpected setbacks, the journey towards their explosion was undeniably filled with immense creativity, strong camaraderie, even amidst the cymbal throwing, and a genuine punk rock spirit. What does it truly mean to keep pushing forward relentlessly, even when facing those unforeseen crashes along the way?